Good evening. Welcome. It is a wonderful Monday night. We want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your day, out of your evening to join us. And we've got some good questions tonight. It is question and answer night, and we've got some really good ones. And then we got some like so-so ones. And then we got ones that are just really, really bad, but we're going to answer them anyway because Cubbie's here and we're just going to make him answer them.
We
That's how
awesome.
we're do it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's back in from the days at the state fair. Did you get any sun at the fair there, Cubbie?
I got a lot of sun at the fair. It is warm. Yeah. It is warm.
It's been a warm time here in the upper Midwest. So yeah, guys, we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. So if you are ready to go, we'll jump right into our first question of the night. We're going to be putting a break between the questions this evening, so that way for those of you who follow, you know what we're doing, and we'll be right back here with our first question. So a lot of people are asking questions about getting started as a DJ. And what I wanted to do is we're going to start off basically, if somebody asked us, what would be 3 tips that you could give someone on things they would need to know or they should be, to getting started as a wedding DJ? So the first of us is going to have the easy job because they can mention any 3 tips. The second person has to mention 3 that don't. And then the last person has to mention 3 that don't match the first 6. Who wants to go first?
I want to go first.
Okay.
I want to take the easy one. So the first thing I'm going to say is go back to last week's show and just watch that. And you'll have like 10 or 11 tips right there off the top of the head, because John and I talked a lot about this last week. But in all seriousness, go back, check that out. There were some great things in there to kind of help you get started, whether it's wedding DJ or just DJing in general. But the second tip that I'm going to have, and we mentioned this last week, so some of this is going to be obviously be a repeat, but be legitimate about it. Invest the time to set up the business so that you are protected, but also so that your client is protected, right? A lot of times we set up contracts to protect us, but they should be working both ways. So make sure you invest not in the Facebook lawyers, but in the legitimate entertainment lawyers, so that you can set things up the right way. And then also make sure you're setting up a bank account so that your personal finances and your business finances are separate and you're paying yourself appropriately, not using your personal finances to fund everything with your DJ business. Okay. There's like 3.
There was 3. Yeah, we have 3-ish. Last week, and business account, and then contracts. Okay, Cubbie.
Okay, so is it 9 tips for your first wedding or as you're starting your DJ?
It's your
career?
kind of your first wedding or your career, either one.
Okay, well,
I'll
go. Yeah, okay, I'll do weddings. Preparation, all week long, practicing the names so that they roll off your tongue. If it's your very, very first wedding, in your crates, in your playlists or whatever you're making, make playlists in case you have a brain fart. You forgot about songs. Top 200 lists. There's a great one from DJ Event Planner. The top 200 most requested songs, have that readily accessible. They've also have things from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Once again, just if you're like trying to, if you're nervous, these lists will help you greatly, that you can refer to. Oh, I forgot all about that song. Maybe you just forgot about a song or something like that. So preparation, create playlists prior to your reception. And do the best you can to relax. Speak calm, be calm about the whole thing. Don't be nervous. Don't show that it's your first wedding. Be very relaxed on the microphone, and have fun. Have fun. Things are going to happen. Things are not going to go your way the first time at night, and that's going to be okay. But learn from those and move forward. Don't let it get frustrated. Don't do any major mistakes. You're going to have some mistakes. Just make sure they're not major mistakes. And if you do that preparation and you make your playlist and then try to relax as much as you can while making announcements, I think you will have a very successful first wedding.
So getting started, I think you need to, it kind of builds off what Cubbie was saying, is I think practice is something that I think he was saying preparation, but I think the idea of practicing, as you mentioned, names and mixes. And it's even to the point of going and having your cue points set to be able to go and know where I'm going to mix out and know where I'm going to be mixing in. There's going to be some songs, because you can go to the DJ Event Planner Top 200 that are the most requested songs. there's a lot of those songs you can kind of put into groups already because you know that they're probably going to be played at the wedding or requested or whatever, or they're going to go over well with the crowd. Putting these things together and practicing the transitions, doing these things in in your studio or in your bedroom or wherever it is such great getting your confidence built up to know that, hey, I can make this transition from this song to this song and it sounds good. And I've done it so many times that I don't have to really worry about it the night of how I'm going to play some of these songs in these sets. You'll have transitions that you haven't worked on, but when you have some of them you've already down, you're going to feel much more confident when you're out there. Cubbie mentioned the names. The names are a huge thing. I would go as far as to actually work on reading unusual books. We've talked about this in the past with how to become better on a microphone. Go get some Dr. Seuss books, check some out from the library. You're going to look like this weird, creepy person, bringing kids' books home. But, as long as you're driving your van that says free candy on the side, you can get any kids' book you want, and there's no one who's going to question your situation. But Dr. Seuss books are great tongue twister type books that are going to help you learn to enunciate and to speak clearly. And if you find you're not speaking clearly, read it again and again. Out loud. And then you bring in like your nephew or niece or someone and then read it to them. And they're going to be like, if you're not reading it right, they will tell you.
I'm going to add in two that came in through the chat that I think are
oh yeah, please.
Ideas. Good to go with what you're saying. Rocky adds, using your phone to record the client saying their name and listen to it and say it and repeat it as they said it.
Good.
Catching it on the phone, like I always tried to type mine out, but recording that is going to be key, and not just their name, but also their like wedding party names. And then Robin says practice saying their name and then typing up a timeline to go with what you got. So those are excellent additions as well.
And timeline, awesome. And that was actually Robin. I didn't even see that, so that was where I wanted to go with my last. Is the timeline is to have kind of a plan for where you want to go for the evening. We talked about this a little bit last week. But the idea of having that timeline of when things are going to happen and have it approved or discussed with the couple so that you know what to expect and they know what to expect. And there might be, it's not a hard timeline for most events. Dinner might be 5 minutes late. It could be a few minutes early, whatever it is. But the idea is that you have a timeline and a flow of what's going to come up, what's next, and then you can work your way through it. And that's one of the things that happens at times, and this has happened to me, is that you'll forget some aspect of the day, and then I'll be like, hey, we were going to do the garter, and it's, now we're in the last half hour, and it's like, we haven't done the garter. Can we throw it? And it's like, oh, crud, I forgot all about it. Having that plan and that timeline, all typed out and ready to go will be a lifesaver, because even the best of us will forget pretty much everything at some point in time. Cubbie, you got it?
Yeah, it's upside down. As soon as I get done with my planning meeting with my bride and couple, I actually literally send them a loose timeline. And if I need something in big bold letters, it'll say need song. Maybe it's a cake cutting song. Maybe it's a whatever. And then big bold letters it'll be need song or whatever. And then that'll become our email back and forth. They need to change anything directly. I let them know that it is a loose timeline. Things out of our control can either make it go faster or slower. But this is in the order in which we're going to do things. And I print out 3 of those, one for the venue, one for the photographer, 4 if there's a videographer, then 1 for myself. So we're all on the same page, and then I go over with them when each one of those vendors, when I pass them out to them, just so we're all on the same page. And I believe I'm the only one in my market or close to might be doing it. It's just very helpful for, like John said, so you don't forget about something, having that timeline exactly where you're at. And then in the Mother Sundance song on my loose timeline, I'll put the father's first name in parentheses next to it, so I don't have to look to see what the father's name is. It's right there in my loose timeline, and so I have to look for the mother's name or the father's name for the father-daughter dance.
Yep, and that's a good tip to have those there. Otherwise, who was it again?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, who the blessing is, who's doing the blessing or whatever. Yeah, always have those on your timeline, so it makes it a lot easier.
Rocky mentions go ahead, Dan. Okay, let me do it. Rocky mentions, of course, the timeline when you go through it. If you are doing a face-to-face meeting, and you can actually have the client basically sign off on it as an additional step. And I know DJs who that would have saved some potential issues and small claims court situation if they would have had something like that done, where the client basically signed off and said, "Yep, this is our timeline for the day. This is what we want to do." Yeah, I thought about it either that way.
I do mine on Sunday. So the Sunday before the reception, the Saturday reception or Friday reception, I put it all together and go, is this still your vision? Is this still your is this everything? Once they approve it, I tell them, once you approve it, I'm going to start making my playlist and my scripts. So they've proved it. They've looked at maybe there's a different song of I'm Yours by Tyler Children and I'm Yourn and I'm Yours by Jason Mraz, right? So those are really close songs. So once they sign off on it, if they're paying attention, I said, look it over closely. And especially when we're going through COVID and we have bridal party lineup changes because maybe a groomsman caught COVID and somebody might have been out. So I always check with what's going on with the bridal party as well, to make sure that the lineup is still the same from when we met 4 to 6 weeks prior to the reception.
Yeah, things can change. Dan, do you have anything to add there? Otherwise,
Well, I was just gonna say, when you're, when you're first starting out, like one of the questions you're gonna have is, well, I don't know how much time to put in for this, and I don't know how much time to put in for this. I still do a loose timeline, exactly as Cubbie said. Like, my timeline is loose from the beginning. So the only things that I put on my times are when they're supposed to come in the door, when dinner is supposed to happen, and when we're finished with the night. Everything else is just a flow in the evening, because those really are the only times that matter, right? If cake's 5 minutes later than it was before, who cares?
Nobody
right?
knows.
Like, the cake isn't going to matter. If food's 10 minutes late, 20 minutes late, then that might be a problem for the caterer. So the only times I really worry about are when we're coming through the door, when we're going to be when dinner's expected, and when we're supposed to be done. Anything else can wait. And I'll take Cubbie's tip of printing them out. I'll go one step further. So I have two versions of my timeline. I have the one that has my script on it. And then I have a second page, which is just kind of, for lack of better terms, is this event, this event, this event, this event, all the way down through. Cut it down to just like a little quarter of a page or whatever. And if there's place on the head table for it, I will discreetly place it there in between the bride and groom, if it's that, so that they have something to look at, so they don't have to remember back to our meeting. I've had so many couples that love that idea, just because it's like, oh, I didn't have to remember that. I just looked down and it was there. Or if, halfway through the night, I can go back to that list. I can see it, and they don't have to worry about it.
I love that, Dan. That's awesome.
Good idea. Great idea.
I learn from you all the time.
Gentlemen, let's jump to the next question. Our next question is collecting payments. How do you collect, in our case, a retainer, and then any payments, and then your balance due? Cubbie, you'll start, since Dan started the last one and took all the...
Sure. So we have a deposit or retainer that is due at the time of the contract signing. By Iowa law, they have 10 days to get everything returned back to them. So I allow them that. I give them 10 days. I'm never here to put a full court press on somebody. I want to seem like one of those anxious DJs, like, you better book me within 24 hours. Not at all. If they feel that pressure, I don't want them to feel that pressure at all. And then we have a 90-day payment and a 30-day payment. And it just basically breaks up our packages so they can afford it. Makes it easier for them. And it also just helps me financially, being a multi-op in Iowa when it's not as busy. I got 90-day payments coming in January for my March. So it helps me financially to stay where money's coming in all year round.
Mm-hmm.
Forms that I take, Square, Venmo, checks, whatever's cows here in Iowa. I'll take some cattle.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll take any form of payment that they have. I want to make it as easy as I can for them. So I do have credit cards as my Square processor. I use Venmo if that's easiest for them. I checks, like I said, whatever's easiest for them.
Sure. Dan.
So I have, just as with Cubbie, I've got a retainer fee that's due with the contract, is about, it's about 25. It's about 20 to 25% of the basic package total. Like, it's a set amount, like it's just a set amount, but it ends up being about 25% of my lowest package. And then that's kind of the way I worked it for that. And then my final payment is 60 days prior. That's when I sit down. I don't do any in the middle payments. I do have a payment portal on my DJEP. So if I will have couples that want to break it up. I even have one for next June. It was the weirdest thing, because every once in a while I'd see $150 come through, and I was like, what's that coming from? Like, it was just the weirdest thing. And that's what she was doing. Like, she was doing monthly payments until it was completely paid off. And it was just the way that she decided that she wanted to do it. It's a percentage that's taken out. I use Square for that percentage that's taken out. So it's, kind of stunk. It would be the same though if she made one big payment or broke it up. And then, obviously cash, check, or charge. Since I've gone to DJEP, it's been more charge. obviously, because I've got Square set up from that standpoint. It kind of stinks. But it's kind of the nature of, oh my gosh, this has been so much easier, and it's a couple clicks and it's done. I don't have to worry about it coming in the mail. I don't have to worry about getting to the bank to deposit. Like it's a pain, but it's there in the end. John?
Retainer. I've had one retainer that was paid by check here in the last probably 2 years. And I had one, we required the final payment to be done a month in advance if it's going to be via check. And I've had one check come through this year. that was for the retainer, or not the retainer, for the balance due. It's like one came in, it's like, okay, how do I deal with this? Lori, take this to the bank for me. I haven't put
this thing.
Yeah, it's like everyone is using some form of digital or online payment, and many are using the DJ Event Planner portal. The very first time somebody made a payment, I didn't even know I had it set up, and I had put the information, and all of a sudden it's like, you've received a payment from your what? I was thinking it was some sort of a spam thing. It's like, oh no, I better check into this. So that's worked very well. The interesting thing in our area, when we're doing local weddings, which we can do within 10 miles of our rural area here, is I have a number of people who are like, can we just pay cash? Because we know you small businesses prefer cash over credit card and different things. And can we just do that? I mean, I'm not, green works too, but it's very interesting how many times that comes up and people would just rather do cash, a cash payment. So I'm not going to complain on that one. It's just a weird anomaly. It's like online retainer, and then cash the night of is what they prefer to do. So
now, one thing, and I'll speak to Mike Walter, so because he talked about this at DJX just recently, because somebody asked like kind of how do you do it. I'm not necessarily the breakdown, but he has it set up that he does credit cards for the retainer fee, but then for the final payment, if you want to make it using a credit card, they're in Jersey, which apparently allows them to add the processing fee to the total. So basically it says, if you want to use a credit card, be aware you're going to be charged the extra percentage fee. However, if you want to send a check, here's our address. And he says that the number of credit card transactions for the final payment has dropped significantly, and they're using a lot of checks. So people obviously are taking advantage of that. And I think, John, you hit the nail on the head. Like it's becoming more common that people are recognizing the small businesses and how much they're getting hit for those, that they're more willing to, you know what? I don't need the airline miles. I don't need the tiny little percentage back. If it means I'm going to help a small business, I'm willing to help you out.
Right.
So,
and I think that's really the thought process for a lot of folks. All right, let's jump to our next question. So for our next situation, you are booked. The bride calls and she asks, sorry, I'm booked, and she's looking for a DJ. Do you help her find another DJ, or do you basically thank her for the call and send her on her way? Dan, you're starting. Go.
I've got a list of people that I believe in. One of them is actually paying attention to this right now and has known, because I send him a lot of business and he does back to me. So thank you very much, Keith. I think it's a no-brainer. It comes back to you. Those that are like, no, I can't send people to my competition. You're booked. Who cares? Help them out. It'll come back. Karma, 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 karma.
Cubbie.
Yeah, I concur with Dan. We have a network of people that pass business back and forth, especially if it's a referral. If they refer to you, they really appreciate you helping them find out of a DJ that you trust, that, because you're not going to send them to somebody that you don't trust. And so there's a Facebook page of the Iowa DJ Society, and that we do, and we like, anybody open on September 23rd or whatever. And so we share a lot of stuff on there. And then there's a couple people that I work with locally as well. It's not all of Iowa located, but that we work together and pass business back and forth. My difficulty is that they're single ops and I'm a multi-op, so I don't always get to send them back and forth, because it's generally a date that they're booked as well.
Right.
So I always like to do nice gifts, maybe like a gift card, like to dinner or something like that. Every 3 or 4 weddings that they gave me, that just said, hey man, I really appreciate this. I can't always do it back for you, But you just don't know how much I appreciate it. So if you're unable to do it because you're not a single op or you're multi-op, you don't have as many slides, make sure they know you appreciate them and get them stuff.
So I'm going to go the other direction just because, you guys have both gone the same direction. And this did bite me in the butt before because I had, I think, 4 DJs at one time early on in the early 2000s when we had multi and we would be booked up. And I had sent a couple of people to some DJs that I thought were going to be competent in quality. And it turns out that they were up until the point that this show came up and all of a sudden something happened. In one case, the DJ did a no-show and such. And I recommended them. They booked the show. I was basically beyond the recommendation, but I get a call from the bride saying, your friend isn't here. And it's like, well, why are you calling me? Didn't you book them? Well, yeah, but you're the one who recommended them to us. And we went on, and it's like, ooh. That was the other one. And then another one was, I think it was the type of client that will complain about anything and looking for money back and looking for a reason. And that one was calling in, I think the argument is you said they had the same music library type of songs you have, and they didn't. And they didn't play any of our songs in any of our requests. And we think we should get a refund. It's like, you contracted them, right? Yes. I know I recommended, but so 2 times in 30 some years of doing of that. So my words of advice is that make sure you know your people who you're referring to, and it's just not somebody you met once, that you have vetted them and have built a relationship, which nowadays, because we know more DJs and we follow them online and we talk to them when we get a chance to, I feel much more confident today with the 5 or 6 people that I do send people to if I am booked, or if it's something that would, in their area, that they're 2 hours, that direction. If it's somebody that's looking for something more local, or I'd send them to them. I'd rather not go 2 hours anymore. I'm not that guy anymore. But making sure you vet is huge. Very, very.
Early on, one of the things I also would do is, if I was in a situation because again, if we're playing, we really don't know what they're capable of, right? We might see some reviews online. We might see their highlight reels that make it look like they're good, but we really don't know.
I mean, great point. So do we really know that Mike Walter plays Prince all the time? I don't know. Does he really?
No, I don't think he does, because
I've listened to his mixes, so probably not.
Yeah, I listened to him too. Not a lot of Prince on there.
But I would put a disclaimer out. I would be like, listen, I can't, here's a list of DJs that I hear are, different places a lot. Obviously I'm working, so I can't speak to their ability. And just kind of that little disclaimer. That was something I did earlier on, especially because there was no real social media to follow, or there was, but we weren't posting as much. And so there was a little difference from that standpoint.
Excellent. Okay, so we are there. Let's jump to our next question. Do you, at your shows, do a shout out to the venue, maybe a shout out to the waitresses, or maybe recommend that they tip their waitstaff or bartenders? Do you do any of that at your events? And I think, Cubbie, are you starting this one? I think so.
I think so. Yes and no. I guess I don't really have much of a wait staff, and I don't do much of the venue because everybody knows where they're at. So sometimes, if the caterer says they can come back for seconds, and I'm getting ready to make my toast announcement, ladies and gentlemen, in about 5 minutes, we're getting ready to do the toast. So if you want to make sure their glasses are full, now would be a great time to do so. Also, if you're hungry for some more of that great food from our friends from Litterdale Catering, please help yourself. But once again, we do the toast about 5 minutes, maybe at that time. And then at the end, when I make my last call, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say it, but it is the last call. Make sure you take care of the bartenders. They took good care of you all night long. And that's literally, it's at the end of the night type of thing. So it's not really like I'm beating it into the ground, just kind of like, hey, take care of them as they took great care of you.
Yeah, I don't. The about the extent is something similar to Cubbie and kind of think of in passing. More often than not, if it's a buffet where somebody from the catering staff is the one that's inviting the tables up to the buffet line, hey, everybody, just, make sure you sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself. Somebody from such and such will be around to invite you up at that time. Just to kind of let them know who's coming to get them. But then that's about the extent. I don't worry about the tipping of the bartenders. They've got a tip jar out. Like, it's kind of hard to miss that for a lot of those. And if they don't, well, that's kind of on them. I don't know. Not something I've done
I've done a couple of times
in a wedding.
Yeah, and again, I had a wedding is really what we're looking at. I've done the venue a couple of times. Hey, welcome to the beautiful tonight, and we're going to be celebrating Bobby and Susie's wedding. That kind of a reception, that type of a situation. I have mentioned that, not very often, but occasionally. The actual the wait staff, I've complimented a time or two when it's been appropriate for whatever reason, but that's been a long time. I haven't done that in many years. I used to, at 2 venues that I did, as I would mention the bartenders and hey, the bartender's working hard for you tonight. Make sure you take care of them. And then it occurred to me that, wait a second, that keg that they're pouring for free, well, there's already a $50 or whatever it was, or something like that they had to pay an additional $50 for a tip to the bartender. The couple did. And then every drink that was in the open bar, the couple were paying 20% or 30% a tip on that. And then they had a tip jar up. And it's like, wait a second. I'm feeding this beast of they're making almost way more an hour than I'm making. So, yeah, I haven't done that. I don't, like Rocky said, I don't market my company as over the microphone that way. And I don't promote the other folks either, unless there's in a circumstance when it would feel appropriate and wouldn't feel kind of skanky or whatever. So, okay, let's jump to our next question. So this discussion this past week has been about music and trying. Some people have talked about finding new music, and I want to freshen up my bangers for my weddings. Do you play a majority of your songs? This again with weddings. Do you play the same songs, majority week after week, or are you trying to change up that playlist week after week so you're not repeating many songs? I think Dan, I'm up to you.
I guess I'm up first. Over the course of the night, if you look at all the music that I play, I would say there's probably 15 to 20% of the songs that are going to be week to week to week to week. They're the ones that are the most popular ones, things that, are going to appeal to all audiences, like an Earth, Wind, and Fire, September, possibly Run DMC is tricky, like, a little bit of everything within that. And there are also songs that I know most often they're going to work. And I also use them to gauge how the audience is going to respond, because they're songs that I'm not taking a real big risk. So if they don't work, I can immediately kind of check that off as like, oh yeah, they're not even going there tonight. Right. So that's where those are the ones that I'm going to repeat. Beyond that, I start picking and choosing where they're going to apply or where they're going to, what they respond to, and then going in a lot of different directions after that. So earlier on, I guess it's more when those type of things hit. And again, overall, 15 to 20% of the songs I play fit into that category.
Cubbie.
I don't play the same songs at every wedding. Like Dan, there's always some that always just work. They're just fantastic. But I think that'd be boring playing the same songs in the same order every single wedding. I'd get bored out of my skull. So yeah, I like to change things up, try new things. Love Dave Landers, Digital Dave, and if you guys can watch him, he talks about taking that chance, roll the dice, try a song. If it doesn't work, you can roll out the first chorus, But yeah, I think it'd be extremely boring playing the same songs, same wedding every week.
Dan threw out a percentage. What do you think your percent is of songs that are repeated? Not maybe in the same flow, but the song will be played last week and it will be sometime during the night tonight type of thing.
Well, Dan, what was your percentage again?
I went 15 to 20. I mean, if I did the numbers, it might be higher, but that's ballpark what I'm thinking.
14 to 19% is what I'd say.
I'm going to go over that number highly, just because going from week to week, playlist to playlist, I would say I'm north of 75% of the same songs are played week after week, just because every playlist is going to have the Cupid Shuffle on it. It seems that's there. Recently, everyone has had There's been a Bon Jovi request. There's been an AC/DC request. There's been a Def Leppard request. There's been a Whitney Houston. I mean, there's just these songs that every wedding they're requested, and even the wedding that Michael did on Saturday night, which had half of the crowd was Czechoslovakian, and then the other half was local here. The Czechoslovakian crowd wanted many of the American wedding standards because they've seen or heard of people doing the YMCA at a wedding, which is actually one that doesn't get played too often anymore, but they wanted to experience some of those. So I would say in our situation, we're probably 75% or even higher of the same songs played week to week, but they'll be in different sets, and they'll maybe be, you'll lead into them with something different, or you'll be on the backside with something different. But you're probably going to hear a lot of the same songs. Is that good? Is that bad? I
think it's also important to kind of, when we gauge this question, to also kind of think about exactly like you said, John, like these are request lists that you're coming in, right? Like, so this is like Mr. Brightside, is going to be on 9 times out of 10. It's going to be on that list. There's going to be songs like that are on the list. And I think catering to those obviously is a no brainer. I think where exactly like Cubbie, it gets boring to do the same is when they're not. Like when those songs are not on the list, it gives you kind of more freedom. Or for the remaining songs in the night, where are you going? And what are you kind of using to frame that mind and giving yourself a chance to kind of go different, even for a song or two, to just kind of see where they go and how they respond. Exactly as Rocky says, you kind of know your audience, know that age range that you're dealing with. And also that could greatly impact, like, are most of your couples exactly the same age, or are you somebody that has, this week might be mid-20s and next week is mid-30s? Like that's a bit of a
there.
swing.
Yeah, definitely do some definitely different with follow-ups and such when you have that situation. All right, next question. So our next question is going to be, what are you doing to prepare for 2024? Now, I will preface the question because I wanted that for ed purposes. So the reason this came up is Alan Berg posted in a podcast a week or two ago about how 2023 in the wedding industry is a down year. And there are vendors across the country who have expressed that their 2022 was a big year and they had weddings and they were busy and they had work. 2023, there are many people venues and different things that are having to do creative things to make ends meet, that they just have not been able to fill the calendars, especially like they did in 2022. Alan's view on this is that 2022 was an unusual year because you had the end of the COVID delayed weddings, and that people who were kind of holding out, they got past that and they were going to jump on getting married last year. Now we're in 2023, and he referred to this as the next normal, not a new normal, but the next normal, that we're going to be getting into that in 2024, of what weddings should settle into and find that their new happy medium, we'll call it, for lack of a better case. So his thought is that it's going to pick up a little bit. We'll have a little bit more business for next year, and I can vouch for just my phone calls and such have been increased at this point for next year than they were last year at this time. However, anyway. So what kind of things, for someone who's looking into 2024, what kind of things would you guys recommend them doing to kind of prepare for possibly a good, if not even certainly much better year than this year, but to an amped up year for next year? And Cubbie, you get to start this time of some advice you can give.
Oh man, well, don't take the foot off the pedal. Continue doing what you're doing, but even press the pedal a little harder. Maybe vamp up your social media, your promoted post, do some advertising. We talked about this earlier. There are different programs out there that you can maybe invest in. Bark, some leads. They give you leads, you buy credits and you get leads. And if nobody else in your market is doing that, and you're the only one they're reaching out to these Bark leads, you might get one, So I would continue doing social media posts, visiting my vendors, training up my DJs. We do bridal shows. We do 2 bridal shows a year. And just staying diligent and making sure you're following up all the leads consistently. Don't just pacify them. Just aggressively attack those leads.
Dan.
I think numbers wise, you should be expecting to get the incoming leads similar to 2018, 2019. I think that's a fair estimate to kind of gauge if you've been in business that long and you haven't really done something drastically different. I think you can be expecting to see that. So if you're not seeing those leads coming in, then your message needs to be out there in a different way. I'm going to disagree with Cubbie. Like, he did mention about social media, and I think that's going to be key. But I think some of the marketing tools that we used pre-COVID are just kind of really going by the wayside. Bridal shows in my area have tanked majorly. Even pre-COVID, they were tanking, and they've only gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might be living in an area that has wedding shows and they're doing excellent, awesome, buy into those. I'm not saying don't, but I'm just saying make sure what you're looking at is really going to have that return for you. And so if your leads are not coming in similar to what they were pre-COVID, then you need to look for that different marketing piece that's going to increase those leads, whether it's doing something different, focusing on reels with Instagram or stories with Instagram, whether if you want to do the paid post, you can. I still think your organic is going to be the way to go, because we're getting so used to seeing ads now and things like Facebook and Instagram with a little sponsored piece. They're getting scrolled past just like that. People are tuning them out, or they're using third-party applications to weed them out. So finding a way to be as organic as you can in that process is really going to be key. And then, as Cubbie said, though, keep your foot on the gas, right? Don't think that you can just sit back and relax and they're going to just come pouring in the way they did in 2022, when if you had a pulse, you are probably getting a something filled in for that day, because the overflow just fell in your lap even if you didn't try. That's not going to happen going forward. You gotta put the effort out. And again, the methods that you're doing are probably not going to be the same methods they were 5 years ago.
And I guess my thoughts for getting ready for 2024 for that season is you've got hopefully 3 or 4 weddings before the end of wedding season in your market, maybe more. But you've got a handful of weddings, and if you haven't been capturing content, footage, video footage, pictures, anything that you can get that you can start to distribute or drip through your social media over the winter time. As Dan mentioned, reels and such, you've got to have the vertical video, shooting a variety of different things, but really, even if that means hiring someone to come with you and be at my wedding at 6 o'clock and you'll be on your way home by 8:30, and paying them for their time, that is going to be, I think, for some people, really good money spent towards your marketing, your winter marketing time, or at least in the booking time in late November, December, January. So use this time to get content, because you can't create content when you don't have shows. It just doesn't work as well. So get it now. What you do with it, figure that out later. Just try to capture as much as you can right now, so you have it in the can, and then you can work with it this winter.
One thing Icon said at DJX that I want to kind of reiterate along those same lines is, where we used to spend our marketing budget 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was on whether it was on sponsor posts, or whether it was on, the shows, or whether it was on, ads taken out someplace, brochures that we were handing out. That budget that you used to have is now shifted to content creation. Whether that's on having the right tools for capturing, whether that's hiring somebody to do it, whether that's hiring somebody to put it together, putting it out there. The market piece has shifted for getting the best bang for the buck.
So as part of this, again, looking at 2024, I've seen DJs who are talking about adding low-lying fog. They're wanting to add, they want to add the dancing on the clouds, or maybe they're going to add whatever, the sparklers, or they're wanting to add things to their offerings for next year. What are your thoughts on is that, do you think that's a good time to be adding something for next year? Or is it one of those things that there's going to be that saturation point? Everyone had a chocolate fountain all of a sudden, and it became the thing. What are your thoughts when it comes to someone debating if they should add something to their repertoire for next year?
I would encourage them to try taking a class on emceeing, mixing, or whatever they feel like their shortcomings may be. Anybody can buy sparklers and be the same company as you. Anybody can buy the same light as you. Anybody can buy, and that's not going to set you apart from your competition. What's going to set you apart from your competition is the way that you we all have the same renditions of Love Shack, but it's what you do with it. We all, so like I said, I would challenge people to share, be real with themselves. Is it emceeing? Is it hosting? Is it mixing? Where are my shortcomings? Because anybody can buy equipment and match you as a company and be the same as you. But where are you going to stand out? Is it your customer service? Is your emceeing? I've seen great MCs that can't mix. I've seen great mixers who can't MC. So if you can do the best of both worlds, you are a double threat.
Well said.
Brian taps onto this. Add as they ask for stuff and willing to pay for it. I wouldn't even add it at that point. I would look for ways to rent it. Reach out to some of your production companies that are local. So, ones that are going to have maybe some of these extra features that are not in the wedding world, right? If they're close enough to you that you can do that, and it might even be worth a little bit of a drive, for you to rent it for, if you're kind of outside of a bigger area and you can rent it from a company that's in one of these other areas, in the end, get that under your belt. And then if it goes the way of the chocolate fountain, you don't have to worry about hanging on to it. And if it doesn't, right, and it builds and you start getting more and more and more of these, then you've kind of already established, okay, there's definitely a need for it. It's definitely coming in. Now it's time for me to get my own. I think in the end, you're going to find yourself renting is going to be good in the beginning, just to make sure that sticks around.
So to kind of build, Cubbie went the direction I was wanting, or I was figuring that this conversation would go, because I think we were all kind of in the same boat, is that you've got some skills that make you unique, and you have to understand what that unique selling, we talked about it last week, is one of the things, and then how to improve that, how to make it so that you are so good at it that people will be like, yeah, I got to have this person. They are awesome at doing XYZ, and it's not gear related. Yes, you could have sparklers for the bride and groom's introduction, but I think you could have just about as a dramatic enough effect if you had your songs and you had some things in your vocal presentation of when they hit the door and how you were able to put that together and build to that moment. That stuff can really, beyond speakers and a microphone, is not gear related. And it can have as much or way more effect than there's Bobby and Susie. Psst, okay, well, that was neat. Wow, yeah, there's fire, and now the building's on fire. That kind of a thing. But to be able to take that crowd and pull them in and hold them in your hand and get them their focus on that door over there and get them excited and get them riled up and ready to go. And then all of a sudden the door's open and there's Bobby, and you helped create that moment. That's something that is hugely valuable, way more than sparklers or low-lying fog in my mind. So, okay, let's jump to our next question. So DJs fly and do shows every once in a while. I've seen a lot of this recently. It's like, hey, I'm going to X, Y, and Z. Does anybody know of someone there who can rent gear? And it got me thinking, would you, now there's going to, two situations here. A DJ's flying in, one that you've maybe met online or you met at a DJ conference, and then a second one that you've never met them before. They're just reaching out cold. Would you rent to either of them if they were like, hey, can I rent some gear so I can go do a wedding in your market? Dan, I think you're first, maybe.
So person number one,
you know them.
Yes, you know them, and you've connected in a way more than just a little happenstance. I would say yes. Person number two, I'm a little bit more leery. I'm not set up to do rentals. Like if I had a rental position and with my business, I think that's a whole other animal. And in that case, I would in a heartbeat. But I'm in a situation where if this person who comes in and decides they're going to rent from me and they damage something, I'm stuck.
Sure.
Right. If they decide to wait a little bit to pay on it, I'm stuck for a bit, right? And trying to scramble to put something together because I've rented out either my main system or my backup, and either way, I don't have one or the other if they damage it. So my gut says that for those two places.
Your thoughts, Cubbie?
I like Dan's gut. I would say number one is no brainer. Know the guy. I feel comfortable doing it. Number two, I'd have to investigate a little bit. As a multi-op, I do have some additional gear. It's not like, so I always have stuff on standby. I guess I'd have to research a little bit, and they'd have to prepay and probably leave an additional $500. I would return them once the equipment came back in great condition. Nothing blown, nothing. And I would literally test it with them, set it back up really fast and test the speakers out, make sure they're not blown and things. I would look at it. I mean, I'd look at it realistically, but I do have a lot of extra gear being a multi-op. I'm not trying to flex or anything. It's just, you just got to have it on hand in case something goes down.
Sure.
Versus getting it shipped in. I would have to look at it seriously, but I'd probably have to ask for an additional retainer that would be returned to them upon return of the equipment, and it'd definitely be prepaid.
My thought is the first one where I know somebody, I would rent them the stuff or let them use the stuff, whatever, and they get it and go. The second one, and I have done this one, is either myself or one of our staff has to go. So basically, that in order for that to go out, they're going to be paying the rate for our DJ to go out there with the what a show would cost for the night. And the one particular time that did happen, they paid the amount. It wasn't the client, or as far as it wasn't the DJ, the client paid it. And our person went, set the gear up and had it all ready to go. And they DJ'd the night. And then at the end of the night, our person brought it all home. And they said that the guy was they're like, he doesn't even do kind of some of the stuff we do. He was very fade in, fade out type of thing at that time, and it wasn't even that why they paid him to come up here. But that's what it was, and it worked very, very well. So, yeah, if you do it and do it right, or protect yourself, that's a big part of it. So, Mr. Lenstra, that's our next question. We're actually going to do that one quick, and then we're going to wrap up here. 1 second. Our final question is about playlists. How do you handle playlists? How many songs can you have in a playlist? And if a couple gives you a full playlist of all the songs, how do you react to that? So first off, let's start with we'll just kind of go around here. How many songs would, in your preferred world, when they say give you must plays, how many is a must play list that you're comfortable with? Dan, go ahead first, and then we'll go Dan. How many must plays is good for Dan?
No more than 12.
Cubbie.
No more than 12.
In my DJ event planner, I have 10.
10.
It's literally, it taps them at 10.
So I'll do up to 20, but I would prefer 10. But I've gotten up to 20 of them, and I can usually do that, and I'm happy. Okay, so when they're making making a list of play if you can, because that's an option on DJ event planner. How many songs in that category do you prefer to see? In a perfect world, Cubbie, go ahead.
In my DJ event planner, I have it literally set at 50 songs. In a perfect world, probably give me 20 that I can get off of or play off of, that I can run with, knowing what their vibe is going to be. I always share with my brides and grooms that if they hired me to bake a cake for them, I'd make the best cake they could. And they give me the ingredients, and I'm going to mix that cake for them and make it the best tasting cake. And if a guest comes up there and tries to ruin my cake with Stairway to Heaven, it's not going to happen. And they have my trust in that. So as I share that analogy with them, that they hired me to bake a cake, and I'm going to make the best cake for them, and they love it, and they appreciate that and know that I'm going to be there for them and look out for their best interest.
Dan.
48. No, that's an inside joke that's an inside joke with Keith, because we had this discussion tonight via text prior to this show. So yeah. So in all seriousness, play of possibles, give me all you want. I don't care. You want to give me 200 lists on the list? That's fine. But I will be having the conversation with you that says these are play of possibles, and that's where they're going to stay, because I don't have time to play every single one of these. I will play as many of them as I can. That's why they're play of possibles. So I'm completely open to it, but I definitely have that conversation with them that says we're not getting to 50 songs at 3 minutes a song. And I play out that full version of the song, knowing full well I'm going to mix them shorter, but I play out that full length to make them realize how drastic their list is, because they don't realize, even if they put it up on Spotify and it gives them a total count, they don't recognize how much of that dancing time that they've just
ate up,
took hostage from their guests.
Mine in the play if possible about 20. I don't want any more than that, because I find that the must plays I'll work my way through and mix them in, and then if I have too many of the other ones, then I start feeling guilty that I'm missing some of the play, especially if there's better songs over here than are over here, and I'd almost not. I prefer to see more of that limit of 30, 40 songs total across the board. So I've just used the other. The final part of this with playlists is, what do you, when a bride or groom give you a full list of songs and basically say, here are the songs, here's 200 of our favorite songs, we want you to play exclusively from this. How would you handle that situation?
I never had it happen.
Really?
It's because Cubbie, you give them the chef, you give them the baker now.
Yeah, the baker analogy. That's
see,
yeah,
and I'll address their songs. I will really go through their list and go, because if there's one that is like weird, like I just don't think it's gonna hit. I'd ask them why they chose. Why is this Grandpa's favorite song? Why are we doing this? Why? And I'll talk to them about their songs.
I am a really, really expensive jukebox, right? Like if you're wanting to pick out every song and you're wanting to put them in order, you didn't need me. You could have gone to the local store and rented a sound system and even paid them a couple extra bucks to set it up and put your playlist in. You're paying me to do what I do best. So the order needs to be flexible. And how do we handle if somebody comes up and asks for something else? Having that conversation with them and being flat out honest that, listen, this is not going to go the way that you think it is by picking the order and everything else. I'm not saying you got to be, this is a fine line, because if you do it wrong, they're going to come across cocky and condescending. So you've got to be very careful when you're having that conversation to say, listen, there needs to be flexibility here. Not because I need to play the same songs I play every week, which is what some people will take it when you say I'm not going to play your list. But rather, I need to have that flexibility to do what I know will work and what your guests will respond to.
Troy Ackerman from DJ Event Planner, when he was a DJ, we talk about his circles of thirds, where he'd like to get a third of the songs from the couple, that there would be a third of the songs that he, as the DJ, would read the crowd and do like what Dan was just saying, having that flexibility to do that. And then a third would come from guest requests, or, the bottom 2/3 would kind of intermingle a little bit. And I've always liked that idea. Now, with that being said, there have been many times where I've been given a list. And sometimes the conversations that Dan was talking about was we were able to talk our way through that and think about that a little bit. And then there were some changes made. So instead of a circle of thirds, it became the circle of half. Half was theirs and half was to the bridge songs, to get from one of their songs to another of their songs, that type of thing. Because most of the time when I give you a big list like that, it's not all horrible. There's some, but there's a lot of good stuff in there too. So you can make it work. In my years, I've had 2 shows where they gave me a list completely, and I wasn't paying attention, I suppose, in advance far enough. And one of them actually was the day of. It was put on it was on the table when I got there, and they're like, "Here's the songs we want for the DJ." It's like, oh no. And when they got there, like, "Did you get our list of songs?" "Yep, that's all we want you to play for the night." It's like, "Are you sure?" That guest requests or whatever, and they're like, "No, there's enough good stuff there. You just play from that. That's all we want." What did it make me happy? Not really. But on the flip side is that at the time I was using Megaseg, and I literally could go through and I put all the songs in the thing, and I could just literally stand back and let it go. Was that the right thing to do? Well, that's what they wanted. And I guess when you get to the point, at the end of the day, they're the ones paying the bill. So I guess they got what they wanted. That was the right thing to do. Maybe it didn't lead to a lot of referrals, I suppose, down the road, but so be it.
I would, for lack of better terms, throw them under the bus. In that case, if they're being so hard-nosed that they're not allowing you to go any other direction but their list and in their order, which is a whole other piece to that puzzle, I almost feel like I have to go on the mic at the start of the evening to say tonight's playlist has been specifically curated by tonight's couple, and we are going to party it out because they love these songs. because if they're not going to give me any flexibility, I would, and it goes off of the party. I want them just to be the ones that get the credit.
We're actually getting quite a few comments. I'm going to read those quick, Dan, and then you can take us out here in just a second. Somebody said they had a playlist, gave to the exclusive playlist, and the guests asked if they could request. And he said, unfortunately, you can't. Dan's method of handling that, by the way, is gold, because I have done that. I actually did it that night, and the crowd actually appreciated it, and they're like, yeah, this is kind of cool. There's a playlist there. I would run and hide. Okay. That would work. Brian is, and Brian was seconding Cubbie's why as a, asking about some of the songs and even why they wanted to make the playlist like that. Good playlist songs you want to hear, great songs you didn't even know you wanted to hear. That's kind of Brian Red's philosophy, as he plays some eclectic thing from 1980 something. The bad DJs is really what they're trying to avoid, and I get that. Yeah, they're hiring for your performance and your skills, as Rocky said. Yep. I think, do I have them all there? Yeah, and it's not, once in a while, that's not your client. Unfortunately, if you've had them booked and this is like the week of, sometimes you have damage control. So hanging with Howie, DJNTV.com/chill. You don't need all the other stuff. That's Hanging with Howie, and that'll be up here in a few minutes. So go out there to the chill room, which is it's our Zoom room we have. And on Monday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern is Hanging with Howie. And then after that, it's Hanging Out, Talking Shop. Tuesday nights, it's at 10 o'clock again and Eastern time. And that is the Tuesday Night Music Show with Brian and Jay and Howie and John and Matt and Eric. And there's just been a whole crew in there. You can go out and talk music with the guys on Tuesday night. So, and then Dan and I've got some videos dropping this week. And there's... Actually, the boys have got a video that they will be dropping later this week about some of the lighting that they were playing with at their wedding that they did on Saturday night. So you guys will have to catch that later in the week as they were playing with some new lights that came in. So yeah, I think that's good. Dan, take us home.
On that note, again, thank you very much for taking time out of your Monday night to join us. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the questions. Hopefully we answered yours. And if not, we saved them. We put them in a document and we'll get to them eventually, I promise. All right. Have yourself a good one. We'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody.